Good as well, welcome to another episode of the Pumped On Property Show. Today we are super lucky to have Michael and his fiance Brittany sitting behind the cameras at the moment. We only had 2 lapels, so unfortunately couldn't get you onto this one, Britt. But how you doing today, man? Thanks so much for driving up.
Yeah, good. Enjoying my English breakfast tea.
Yep.
Bringing a bit of the pomminess with me, but I'm good. Good to be here and amongst the podcast and the video.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a pretty nice week for you up here. So you've been living in Sydney, but the last couple of weeks up in southeast Queensland, hanging out with some friends on the Goldie, renovating one of your properties in Brisbane, and now get to come up to the Sunshine Coast, which is sort of like, you know, the third sibling, like just the lost sibling up here to the north that everybody forgets, but is actually the best.
Yeah, everyone draws the line at Brisbane and doesn't really go that extra little bit up to the sunny coast, but we made it. So
you haven't really spent too much on in southeast Queensland, have you? So like, how have you found like spending like, what is it, 2 weeks just hanging up here? It's
been good. It's been nice to experience a bit of a shift from our other property, which is a very small 2-bed apartment, no balcony, no parking, to coming up and experiencing our much bigger house, a single dwelling residential house. And it's given us a real good snapshot of how life could potentially be if we were to make a move somewhere else from, obviously out of Sydney. So yeah, that's probably been the biggest point.
Just like getting to that next phase of life and living in suburbia and living like with neighbours and stuff. I remember I was on the phone with you and you've been like, having a bit of a chat, pulling the bins out with your neighbours and stuff.
I had a real moment when we were partway through the reno works, and I had to ask the neighbour what day bin day was because I had no idea. And obviously the bins were full from stuff we'd been fixing up and chucking out and whatnot. And I don't know, I just had a moment taking the bins out where I was like, this is suburban living. I'm taking my bins out. Because obviously living in an apartment in Sydney, they some guy comes around and takes them out for us, which is great. It's
just a different lifestyle, isn't it?
It's just, tapping into that different lifestyle was really good for a good little 2-week period as well. So
I love it, man. Well, look, let's give everyone a little bit of a snapshot to your life. You know, where are you from? Everyone can hear the Pommy accent, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, Pommy Aussie hybrid now, I think.
Yeah.
I've been here 9 years.
9, almost 10 years, mate. About to hit those double digits. So yeah, but it's one thing that a lot of UKians hold on to, that accent. Like even some of the guys that I've worked with, and I'm like, how long have you been in Oz for? And they're like, 40 years. And I'm like, oh, okay. You really don't want to get rid of that one, do you?
No.
I wouldn't either.
A bit of heritage in me. But had a pretty rural upbringing in the UK, out in the flat fens on the eastern side of the UK. So I always had a bit of a keen interest for fixing things. Like I'd take a wheelbarrow around my local village where there wasn't even a shop, I might add. Like it was pretty rural. You had to get in a car, drive 4 or 5 miles even to just get the closest local little shop.
Wow.
I think I was always in the garden, getting my hands dirty, like mowing the lawns, cleaning gutters, doing things like that. A lot of the stuff you obviously do when you renovate property.
Yeah, right.
But I was doing that from a really, really young age. And I think just growing up in the countryside sort of taught me to graft and work hard.
Yeah. What was your sort of parents' upbringing? Like, did they run a farm or something like that? Or
my father or my dad was in the agricultural industry. Didn't run a farm.
Malibu, come on.
But was he's a seed and pulse trader. So very much agricultural orientated. At the age of 16, I actually got my forklift license and went to work in one of the little factories where it literally sorted the wheat from the chaff, all the peas, wheat, seed, barley, linseed, everything would come off the land in the area that I lived because it was very popular for farming and subsequently human consumption. And there were no laws against the amount of hours you could work because you had to reap the benefits of that 1 or 2 harvest times in the year. Mm-hmm. So the laws were restricted to basically get the benefits from that. And I was working crazy hours. Like at the age of 16, 17, I was driving forklifts and loading lorries and running factory line and stuff. And at one point, I had to rein it in a bit because I think I put in about 98 hours in a week or something.
Holy moly.
Yeah,
At 16.
like 16, 17, 18. Obviously,
Was that sort of
wouldn't recommend it. But
was that the first job for you as well?
Yeah, first proper job. I mean, like when I was 8, 9, 10, 12.
Run, whatever.
Yeah, I would wheel a wheelbarrow full of my dad's tools that I'd nicked out of his garage. And, I'd knock on doors around the village and say, hey, do you want me to clean the leaves off your driveway? I can rake the gravel. I can mow the lawn. I can clean your gutters. So
you've always had that entrepreneurial, hard-working...
I think so, yeah. And again, I pick strawberries. I'll be up out of bed at like 4 a.m, got on my push bike, rode to the next village where there was a couple of strawberry fields, made friends with the guy who owns that. Actually knew it through a family friend. But yeah, I used to pick strawberries from 4 till 6, 7 in the morning. I got paid per punnet. And then those punnets would go off to the local lay-by where they'd sell them and they'd all be gone by midday and you get up and do it again the next day. So from an early age, I don't know, call it hustling. Yeah, whatever. Just, I've always had a keen eye for just getting on with stuff.
I love that, man. And fortunately, I get to talk to a lot of people, that are on their investment path and doing their thing. And there is a very, a huge commonality between everyone. And it is this underlying really good work ethic, willing to go the extra mile, willing to put that extra time and effort in to make it a reality. And it just seems to be something that most investors have, is just a good work ethic and a willingness to get stuck in.
Yeah, I also have a pretty good other half who's just a quick glance across there. But no, Britt's amazing. We've been together 15 years.
So you met in the UK and moved out to Australia together. That's awesome.
Tender age of, I think Britt was 18, I was 20 or thereabouts. And I'm just really lucky that we're a two-person team. To get on the property ladder these days, especially by yourself, is really hard. So I think similar to yourself, just really fortunate to have Britt in my life, and she's very much on the same page as me with that type of stuff. She's an absolute styling queen as well. She can cruise into Kmart, pick up weird stuff, put it in the basket, and I'll think it's odd, but then it will come back, it will go on the side perfectly next to some other magazine or whatever that she's colour matched, and I'll come back into the other room and think, yeah, looks awesome.
That's so cool, hey. That's so funny. The woman's touch,
Mate,
just know how to turn a house into a home and know how, just that vision, and it's awesome, because my fiance, we've obviously renovated this house, and she's brought a lot of all of the stuff, the plants, the books, all the little bits and pieces she's chosen as well, and I'm straight over my head, that sort of stuff.
100%, yeah.
Just give me a comfy bed and a safe house and a nice outdoor area, and I'm good.
Yeah, and we've also navigated things along the way as well. Some major, some minor, which is all character building and strengthens our relationship, but. Just a funny one in the little apartment in Bondi. We put a floating wall-mounted TV cabinet.
Yep.
So a bit of extra storage, neaten the thing up, and we wanted to paint an arch and kind of make it nice and let Britt do her styling thing. And then she announced she wanted to off-center the TV to the left, and my brain was just whoa, 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 whoa. Nah, it's got to be in the middle. And there was a good, 6, 7 weeks or something. Where we were going backwards and forwards, laying in bed at night, talking about it. Doesn't make sense, off to the left. Anyway, she got away and we mounted it off to the left, and then she styled whatever she needed to do on the right, and it looked awesome.
Oh, no way. That's classic, hey?
I'll have to send you a photograph to sort of...
Trust the process, right?
Mate, trust the process. But, just off the back of that funny little thing, it's little things like that shape your journey along the way,
Down, mate. Just relax. Relax. Go see Brittany. Go on.
Oh, there we go.
Too excited.
What an attitude, Mel.
We've just got my little dog causing havoc on the podcast this morning, guys. Apologies for that little bit of background noise. But I love to hear it. It's cool to, hear people's journeys and things like that. So I guess UK, grew up rural, got stuck into work at an early age, met your life partner at an early age. What was sort of the decision to move out to Australia? Was it were you planning to stay here long term when you first decided to come out?
No, we're in that category of the classic came out for 1 year and then here we are 8.5, 9 years later type territory. Sure. But a couple of moving parts to that one. There was, so Brittany's one of 5 siblings. I feel bad for the parents, but there's only one left in Sheffield in the UK. All 4 of the others have moved out to Australia.
Oh, wow.
For many reasons, but Britt's also got an auntie who lives in Mount Tambourine, actually.
Oh, cool.
So a bit of family. But yeah, ultimately Britt and I were just getting a bit too settled too early on. Like, we met in Nottingham at university, had a few crazy party years and stuff, moved down to London. That kind of continued, and London's an amazing city, but we weren't quite, because we had early goals of getting on the ladder, but that was always going to be in the UK.
Yeah.
But London was just kind of, I'm not saying we're living packet to packet, we still worked things as best we could, but we also wanted to have a good time, being early 20s, mid 20s by that point. And yeah, job was going well and stuff, you know, like a bit of a pay rise and a bonus. Then Britt got a leg up, and, you know, things as you do, you sort of kick in a few goals. And I know we had a moment where we were like, is this us now? Is this us? We're settled? I think we just had a bit of a freak out, had a bit of a chat, went on a ski holiday to France, had a bit more of a chat about it. And we were like, nah, let's go and travel. So a couple of our siblings had actually migrated out towards Australia on holiday visas and stuff, and they were chirping up about like, oh, it's really fun, you know, and you should come out and give it a go for a year. And yeah, we decided, why not?
Give it a crack.
Give it a crack. So yeah, like I say, 1 year holiday visa. And
so did that force you to have to go and do the like the farm work and things like that to get the visa, or did you get a sponsorship when you were realizing that, okay, we want to stay here for more than just 1 year?
Yeah, look, it happened pretty quickly. So even though we came for 1 year, and obviously it's perfectly fine to go and do some farming work. A good few friends have gone and done that, had amazing experiences and stuff. But we wanted to really try and come and dig our heels in and make the most of that 1 year.
Going to uni, got a good job,
yeah,
starting to get pay
like
increases. You didn't want to take a few steps back. You want to step forward.
I don't think I don't see it as a step back. I mean, again, friends have done it. That's like the most amazing time. And they actually save quite a lot of money, because if they're farming, they're often back to the rural area and they can't really spend the money that they earn. So, you know, typically a few of them have sort of gone and blown it and then gone, damn it, I should have been a bit more sensible. But look, we just started flinging CVs out after a bit of a cruise along the East Coast there, and yeah, managed to get pretty good jobs that actually replicated exactly what we did in the UK.
Amazing.
Pretty much carbon copies of the exact same jobs, but just for different companies based over here. So for that reason, you know, we'd sort of started digging our heels in hard at work and trying to do as best we could to capitalise as much as we could have from the 1 year we're here, which quickly led to sponsorship, and the rest is pretty much history, because that led to residency. And then when that was sort of running out, we thought, well, you know, we might as well just shoot for the citizenship, and now we're officially Brozzies.
Yeah, you're here
British
now.
Australians. So yeah, all that's kind of wrapped up, and we've obviously put some roots down here. So
love it, mate, love it. So what are you and Brittany doing today? Like, what does your sort of, you know, day to day look like, and, you know, how does that all work?
So through, I mean, obviously we're together a long time, so know each other very well. And yeah, through COVID, Britt got pulled around a little bit. We both did. I was put on reduced hours and things like that. Britt actually got made redundant more or less straight away when that March 2020 hit, and it was all just like cruisy. And then within a week, she got made redundant, and I got put on like 3/4 salary. So it was just like a complete freak out. But we got our stuff together, and we cut out all luxuries and things like that. And yeah, so to answer your question, through COVID, we naturally sort of started working remotely and working from home together. So living in that close apartment in Bondi, she's got a separate little room, and I sort of take over the lounge for the working day. But we work it pretty well, and you know, now that we're through COVID, we can get back out and do some meetings and things like that. My role day to day is a senior business development manager for a lighting company, which has grown to become a global company since I've been there. So that's been the only job I've had since in Australia. Yeah. So that was the job I got. And that's the job I still have.
Awesome. So quite loyal.
A lot of loyalty there, yeah.
Part of your value system as well.
Very, very much so, yeah. Just it's like taken me a long time to build up that sort of trust and loyalty as you do in relationships and with friendships and in every aspect of your life. And I try and push to do that as much as possible. And naturally that just happens with work. So yeah, day to day we just, we both work remotely from home for the most part. And yeah, luckily we got on pretty good. So
yeah, for sure. So like I want to track back a little bit as well, because you mentioned, you know, when you're in the UK, finished up uni, yeah, you're living in London, having a good time, but still stacking some chips away and you know, working hard and already thinking about getting onto the property ladder.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the property journey. You know, when did it start?
Yep.
And what was your thought process about property? Was it just to buy your own home, or was it to start building wealth for the future?
A bit of everything. It's probably the inevitable answer, but I would say the property journey really started back in London. So Britt and I met in Nottingham. We had 3 years, which was uni and partying and all that sort of stuff, which continued a little bit into London. But when we got into London, there's some super nice places down there, and obviously we're trying to push to progress our careers and things like that, which means earn more money, which if you get more money, you can, get on the property ladder and that sort of thing. So I think it started, there were signs of it showing from an early stage. Britt and I were both fortunate to have parents who just put like little extensions on, or in Britt's case, actually built a family home. So I think experiencing that from a young age sort of made me think, maybe one day we could do this. And the savings really started from an early stage. Really when we went down from Nottingham to London, we'd spend evenings watching Grand Designs, and stuff like that. And then
I want that.
Man.
Look at the price and you're like, I've got to work another 40 years.
Yeah. And then even before we owned property, like long before we owned property, we'd go to like Grand Designs Live was on in London, and we were like, well, we're here, let's grab a ticket and go. And then you sort of start looking at all the building materials and all the innovation around the cladding and stuff like that, and different ways of doing things now. I did product design at university, so the idea of like progression in technology is changing the way we're building and the way you can fix things and make things better. I don't know. I've always just been immersed around that.
I wonder why. Like, is it just, it just seems logical. It's something you can see, you can feel it, you can, change it. Like, why do you think property's just always had, like, you've just had this underlying connection maybe to wanting to get into property and renovate and develop and
I think
like
it's
that?
the ability to add value in line with everything we talked about bringing in Brittany style and being into interiors and things like that. We can always see the benefit of something where we can add value, and I haven't really sort of chosen stocks or shares or crypto or some of the other many different investment vehicles, and I think property just lends itself to my personality and the fact that I can roll my sleeves up, graft for 18 hours a day, fixing something up, pressure washing, painting, gardening, doing all these things to make it better. Kind of naturally reflects who I am and my character. So,
and then how long did it take you to get that first deposit here in Australia? Because I've got friends, that have moved out to Australia, worked on sponsorship visas. Certainly not a walk in the park.
Yeah, we made a lot of sacrifices. So we'd managed to save a little bit, like got a few bonuses here and there and things like that in London, but because that was sort of sapping up, obviously an expensive city, it was sapping up kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back type thing with our savings, and the frustration built. So decided to come out to Australia, inevitably did a loop around Southeast Asia on the way, because we thought, well, we've never travelled before, so if we're going to do it, now's the time between jobs and all that sort of thing, which pretty much depleted what we'd saved. So here we are, arriving in Australia, amazing place, lots of opportunity and all the rest of it, more or less hitting the reset button. Like, we rocked up, between us, I think we'd more or less, got through what we'd had, and we rocked up with whatever was in our backpacks, and I think realistically a couple of $1,000s in the bank, which helped us just live for a bit to get some CVs sent out. And I actually bought my first car when we lived in Melbourne for 2 years with the rest of what we had, and then put a deposit down to rent a place.
Yep.
And I guess ultimately the hard yard started from there. We just got our heels dug in right from the get-go. Yeah. I worked and worked and worked and worked, and so did Britt. We still had a good time, of course, but, we just made cutbacks where we could, so instead of going to the gym, I quit the gym and I just went jogging instead, or used the bars at the park, and there was $40 a week that added up, and times that over 5 years, so on and so forth. But pick your battles with that stuff, because at one point when I was we were on an absolute mission with the savings, and we were getting there. It was the point where we'd set a goal, we'd set a figure, and we were close to it. And my brain just couldn't stop. Like, I'd lay in bed at 3 a.m, it'd be absolutely 100 mile an hour. Like, how can I get that figure? Need that figure. I need it quicker. I need it now. Which is part of the problem with our generation. We want everything now, and these things take time. But
especially in Sydney or Melbourne, when you're looking at a purchase price of $700,000, $800,000, $900,000.
I personally got a bit too extreme with it. Like picky battles.
obsessive.
People say, oh, have you done that and whatever? And, you know, like if your one coffee a day is your little ritual that you know, makes you happy, well, don't pick that to cut out in the morning because you could just get off on the wrong foot. Like ring your car insurance up, try and get $50 off your car insurance, whatever. Like pick your battles with the stuff that you're saving.
I really agree, and I think we talked about it in the early days as well. Like we want to try and create strategies and implement, I guess, different journeys to financial freedom that are in alignment with our lifestyle and our goals. Because, you know, if you're constantly pushing a rock up the hill, it's like, you know, you're going to get to your deathbed and be like living with regret going, I missed out on all of this. So you need to be able to stop and smell the roses, and you need to be able to figure out what you can justify giving up. But there's always going to be a level of sacrifice. There's always going to be a level of like commitment to this, because, you know, nobody's just going to come and hand you the keys to $1 million property. Like you've got to work your ass off to get there. And it's that commitment to like a good work ethic. It's that commitment to getting to that savings goal and the sacrifices that you make to get there that makes it all the while worth it as well. And then like when you finally get the keys, you're like, okay, cool. Like I feel like I deserve this as well. Yeah. Did that happen for you and Britt once you got to that number?
Massively, yeah. Actually, I should explain. It kind of came to a head when we went out for a meal, and I was just trying to save in every direction. And so I had ordered the meal, had a couple of glasses of wine or whatever, and then it's like, oh, could I get another glass of wine? And I was like, we can't do that. We're saving money, you know. And it just got a bit like too extreme. It's like, of course we can have a glass of wine. Like we're having a nice meal out. That's a treat and a reward for the hard yards. So, but yeah, it massively happened. Like I probably describe it as, I'm not a gambler, but like if you were to, you know, chuck a chip on the table at the casino and, you know, $50 came in and you get that burst of like excitement. Yeah, mate, that continued for like a week, 2 weeks. Again, I got a bit too much with it because like I was checking my bank account 2-3 times a day. And my brain just could not stop going, how can I get that figure more? I need that figure more. I was like, should I sign up and do delivery riding after my normal job or whatever, like to get extra money? Like again, it's back to that young mentality I had of like pushing the wheelbarrow around my village and knocking on doors saying, can I do some work? Like
there was just continued. Such a strong drive and such a pulling force for you to get there.
But then that all came sort of crashing down when we actually we bought Bondi and our apartment in Bondi, and I felt sick when all that money just disappeared.
Yeah, right.
Like I was shaking.
Well, it goes from, you know, nice positive territory to like red.
Oh,
and you're
mate,
like, oh, great. So I've worked my ass off for the last 3 years to save up this money, and then now it's gone to negative. But you got an asset in the market. And what time did you buy that apartment? What year was that?
So that was 2018. So we arrived in Australia January 2014. So just give you an idea of time frame and how long it kind of took us to get everything together. I mean, arguably you could say it started before that, and we were always making plans to move towards that. We just really got our heels dug in once we arrived and got those jobs. And we just didn't stop pushing until it was done, basically. My old man always said, if you want it, you've got to work for it.
Yeah.
And that's never stopped with myself and obviously Brittany, but probably more so me. It rubs off on her a bit. But yeah, I just would not stop.
Yeah.
Like if I was going for a job, I'd I'd have the same song and repeat, and it'd be a motivational one, and I'd think about a figure in my head, and I'd just imagine I'm running towards that figure. Just a few mind games along the way, but I've learned a lot about myself and also Britt and I's relationship along the way. But yeah, the elation we felt when we got to that figure was unreal. So it was like, right, okay, better start looking for apartments now, houses or whatever. No idea what we were doing. Obviously, that's where we stumbled across your videos and things like that. The whole thing's just been a journey. Like it's something that's not going to happen overnight, and this has been spanned over 10, arguably 15 years for us.
Yeah, it's nice, and it does take time, and it's good to know that like that's normal. Yeah. Like that's a normal journey through that process. Anybody that does it differently is, you know, generally there's going to be a degree of luck there, or good fortune. And so 2018, you've bought your apartment, you're living in it, you're working full time, trying to get that red part to a lesser number. And then obviously COVID hits, made redundant, single income, big mortgage, stressed out, trying to find new employment opportunities, still educating yourself and still, you know, working towards the next goal. So like, tell us a little bit about that journey from 2018 through to 2020, 2021, when we really started to have meaningful conversations about your plans.
Yeah. So with us, again, just wanting to dig my heels in and sow a few seeds that will hopefully grow over time. And obviously my brain was in bed after we'd bought the first one going, right, when are we buying the second one?
Yep.
It's like...
Never content.
You need to slow down. I don't know how to do that. So...
I can't wait to shoot the video of your renovation and just let people hear about what you've been doing and what you've been sacrificing to get that done. It's crazy, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Yeah, that was condensed into a shorter period of time, fortunately. But yeah, so 2018 through to 2020, effectively when COVID hit, which sort of shook the world up a fair bit, obviously. Got the place, we moved in to own and occupy it, which we were stoked because we'd spent years sharing apartments with friends and family and things like that, just to the point where we wanted our own little space. So yeah, little 65 square metre apartment, 2 bed, 1 bath, 2 bed, 1 bath, no balcony, no park. We set out wanting a balcony and a parking space and everything. We quickly realised in Bondi you need a lot more money to get that. So we made a few sacrifices, ended up where we got. We basically did it up. Like, we weren't knocking walls through or anything. Obviously, the space is really small. The building was built in the 1930s. It's quite close to the beach.
Great.
So we shot for location.
Location-wise.
100% we shot for location.
And that's paid off as well.
Massively.
Like, even though you are the smaller footprint, no parking, you mentioned it's a smaller complex with 12 or
only 12 apartments in the whole block. So built in 1930s. It's there's no stud walls in the place. Every wall is solid.
So if you're going to buy an apartment, it's kind of what you want. Like, I'd make a few changes, but it's not the end of the world.
We're in the anomaly of that it's an apartment, but it's still performed. But yeah, location. Like, it's literally from the building front door to the Bondi Beach.
Yep.
It's 340 metres.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
You can literally forget your towel and go, oh, I'll just pop back.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's that close, which you quickly get used to. And even further back and you get a bit sort of snobbish about it. Like,
I know,
it's too far.
yeah. Like for me up here on the sunny coast, the first house I moved into was literally like 600 metres from the beach, and I was like surfing every day, loving it. Second one was like about 1.5 km from the beach, and I'm like, oh, I've got to jump in the car now. And then now I'm like 3 km, I'm like, I'm going backwards. I need to get closer to the beach. And everyone's like, dude, you're less than 3 kilometres, shut up.
Yeah, same. So, but yeah, ultimately we moved in. The savings just basically started all over again because we'd just gone back to zero. Or in my mind, I'd gone back to zero. Obviously, the money just disappeared into the bricks and mortar. So once I got over that, was quickly up and running again with wanting to build those savings back up. And in the course of those 2 years up to when COVID hit, we sort of did the place up. We got the floors. Luckily, it's got like original hardwood parquetry flooring for about 70% of the flooring.
Beautiful.
So I don't know how we afforded it, but we decided to get that sanded by someone before we started moving in. Best decision we ever made because it came up so much lighter, and it was all done before we moved furniture on top of it. Sorry. And basically we used to pick a room per weekend, clear it out, prep it for paint it, move everything back in, and then go again the next weekend with the next one. And we slowly just got it to a point where it's just like there's not an inch of that apartment our fingertips hasn't touched to put our own stamp on it. And evidently we added value by doing that. There's a lot of moving parts. The market went crazy and all the rest of it.
Because that was sort of 2018 was just after the Royal Banking Commission, and then like back end of 18, did well in Sydney. 19 did really well in Sydney. Bit of a drop in early 2020, and then obviously late 2020, early 21. You can't really predict that.
Like, let's be honest. In amongst all of those things, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were like, should we buy here? Should we buy there? Nah, we ended up doing full circle because all our mates still lived in Bondi at the time, and there's some weird gravitational pull for Pommies to Bondi. I don't know what it is, but yeah, we did full circle. Ended up back there, and. It was just it just made sense, and we shot for location, made a few sacrifices on obviously the size and no balcony and all those sorts of things, but it's definitely paid off. Like so, there's a bit of naivety on Britt and I's side because we were like, right, okay, to buy the second one, we now have to save, and we have to save at least the same amount, you know. So that basically started, and
numbers back.
Yeah, so over the 2 years...
Back onto the Esplanade at Bondi.
Yeah, we
Campbell Parade, just Michael running up and down, just chasing down his number again.
Yeah, man. The mind game started again. But then I suppose the naivety was that when we were starting to get towards that figure, we're talking like past COVID now, where Britt fortunately, got another job and
Back
everything
in
kind of,
action.
I went back up to full wage and started kicking some goals when the projects were all kind of going crazy because everyone was playing catch up.
Yep.
So we went from like a really slow period through COVID to just going mental in the construction industry. So work was going crazy. Started kicking a few goals again and putting the savings away, and we were kind of getting towards that initial figure again, and we were like, oh, we're going to be ready again soon. But that's when we massively underestimated the power of equity.
Yeah.
Because in our heads, we were like, right, we've saved once, we've done the process once, we've got to do it again. And then, we called, I think it was like early 2021, mid 2021 by this point. And reached out to the mortgage advisor and was like, hey, got some plans, thinking of buying a second one. Found these guys online doing videos, all this sort of thing, and was doing our due diligence. Obviously, we had a ton of time to spend at home through COVID, so most of it was spent basically researching on investing in property and what do's and don'ts, areas, all of the things that you guys help with. And reached out to him, and he was like, "Hang on, wait, we'll just get your Bondi one valued," which he did do, and he rang us up when he was like, you could probably buy a second one without even touching your savings. And I literally remember Britt and I looking at each other going, wait, what?
We don't have to put money down?
Like it was game changing. So
Well, this is why everyone says.
Now we're ready to do more than we thought.
Yep. And this is why everyone says the first one's the hardest, right? To get into the first one is always the most challenging because there's no shortcuts. You just got to save the little cash deposit. But then once you're in the market, if you make good decisions like you did, and if you put some elbow grease into it like you did, you get some equity out of it, and then you can use that to speed up that acquisition journey. So we're obviously having those meaningful conversations. You obviously spent some time in Melbourne. You'd been living in Sydney for a while now. Didn't have too much of an attachment to location, but
no.
Why did you go Brisbane over the places that you knew? Yeah,
I'm probably going to inevitably, if people watch the videos and listen to the podcast, a few things that have already been said, but I mean there were lots of moving parts. Ultimately, a big one was the Olympics being announced for a decade's time, which in the world of property is not a huge amount of time.
No, and you obviously saw it happen in London around the Olympics as well.
And not just only London. Obviously, if you do your homework on most capital cities that have hosted the games,
Western cities, it's been insane. Very consistent. I think the research that Ben and I did was like the worst performing housing market, the 6 years, 3 years either side of the Olympics was like 60%.
Yeah, man.
London did something insane, like over 90%. Sydney did over 100%.
Yeah.
So now they're saying the same predictions for Brisbane. They're saying 100% growth between now and the Olympics. So it's a huge stamp of approval.
Massive, mate. Yeah, and another moving part. Obviously, a lot of our due diligence on investing in property was done through COVID, and through COVID, we saw that sort of natural migration for people going, okay, I could do my job remotely now. Obviously, we've seen the sprawl happening, people making their way off north to, get more bang for buck in terms of like property that you can buy in Sydney versus Queensland, so on and so forth. We thought if we got in quick, we'd be sort of in amongst that rush. Also, Britt's family as well, they were growing and outgrow the apartment they had in Bondi. We were really close with those guys, and they had a 2-bed apartment. First the dog came along, then kid number 1 came along, and then when kid number 2, they were just bursting at the seams, and obviously everything had gone crazy. So they said, we don't want to sort of live in land in Sydney or whatever, and basically they was ready for a lifestyle change, and that meant them moving up north. So they've moved to Kingscliff in northern New South Wales. So we thought, well, maybe in the future we might follow in their footsteps, because we might want that lifestyle change if when kiddos are coming along and potentially that sort of thing. So we thought, well, maybe planting a seed all the way up north would be a good idea. And that's kind of where we stumbled across your videos and as part of our due diligence, and decided to go for it, because we'd spent I don't know how many months talking about it, and it literally got to a point where we were like, are we just going to continue to talk about this, or are we actually just going to go for it?
Yeah, nice.
And that was when we engaged you guys and just said, yeah, we're going for it.
I love it. And, it's obviously paid off really well.
Yeah.
We got stuck in, it was early 2022, 22, right? Like late 21, early 22.
Late 21. Yeah. So we what we actually bought was literally the first property that these guys bought to us.
Yeah, it was off market.
And we had a chat, and we were like, "Oh, it's the first one. We need to wait and see more." And like the amount of chats we had, and we were like, "Hang on, we've literally engaged them. We've paid the fee. Like they're doing their job. They've bought us this property because it's the right one." And the layout was like, wouldn't have been what we would move into, but that was the emotional side tapping in. And we were like, nah, shut the door on that. They brought it to us. Just chuck an offer in. We said we're doing this. Let's do it.
That's all we can do.
And we just went all in.
Yeah.
Like in terms of putting trust in you guys, like we had to.
Yeah. And it was fun. And because like we were in that real frenzy market as well, like, we needed to kind of get in, and I thought it really made sense because it was on like a nice, quiet, family-friendly street. No flooding issues whatsoever. Close by a good school, like less than a kilometre as the crow flies to the water. About 30 kilometres to the Brisbane CBD. Over 600 square metres. 5 bedroom, 2 bathroom. Nice outdoor entertaining area. I think it's east facing with a nice outlook as well. So it's just like, it was a no-brainer, and tick, 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 tick.
Pretty much.
And was within your budget there as well. So it's like, sometimes it works out in that way, like not all the time. Like you do have to be patient sometimes, but it is nice to jump into it and get it going when you can. And I think like, the proof is in the pudding as to how that one sort of worked for you guys and the potential for the future as well.
Yeah, massively. There was definitely, again, similar to the apartment we bought in Bondi, the photographs online were terrible.
Yeah.
And
which I think lent to our favour as well.
100%, yeah. Because then so a few people put off by that. They want to move into the nice schmick looking place.
And all rented at like pennies as well. Like there was tenants in there for maybe $150 below market value.
Yeah, it was quite low, so you guys guided us. But they were locked in for about another 9 months when we purchased, which worked out sweet because there was rent coming in straight away when we bought, and that was fine. But when we saw the photographs, how much value there was to be added, we just couldn't wait to kind of get up and get stuck into it. The tenants were in there for 2 years actually before we and we looked after them like we said we're not going to ask you to leave until you find a new place, and just trying to do things as politely as possible. So that was pretty cool.
It's good being a tenant at some point in your life, and then having tenants at some point in your life, because you sort of have that respect for them, and you realise that they see that as their house. Yeah, massively. Just because they're not on the title, they still like that's where they raise their family. That's where they have all of their memories. So it's good to have that mentality and just realise I'm creating a safe space for these people. But one of the cool stories with that is during the under contract phase, we were able to negotiate after the building and pest to get a bit of a reduction, which is sort of paid for the renos that you've done on the property as well.
100%, yeah. I just, again, back to my early days, I'd never pay full price for anything. I think my old man just literally from an early age put a negotiation hat on me, and that's never been taken off, like ever. I don't know, I just couldn't bear with parting with that amount of money without negotiating pretty hard, and the stars aligned with the timing of it all, because if you remember, it was in the run-up to Christmas, end of 2021. Yep. And I was like, think about it. The seller's not going to want this to fall through because it's going to sit empty for another month or whatever. It's going to be over Christmas. Everyone's going to go on holiday. Like, they're not going to want this sale to fall through. And there were a couple of things that did come up on the building and pest inspection, which could have, it was risk. I think there was a little bit of moisture reading in one wall and stuff like that. It could have been a $500 fix. It could have been a 15 grand fix. There was risk on our side. So just through liaising with you guys and
talking to the building and pest inspector.
Correct,
as well.
Quick chat with the solicitor and a bit of negotiation backwards and forwards, and we managed to get about 10 grand off the initial offer that we put in,
which is unheard of in a buyer's in a seller's market. So
I think it was either you or Ben who called me, and you were like,
"This doesn't happen, bro."
How?
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a feel-good factor. Hopefully, making a little bit on the way in as well.
So then you've obviously secured that property, and then now you're sort of back in the planning phase. You've since done the reno, which we'll talk a little bit more in the next video. And if people want to head over to the YouTube channel, it should be available now, if not really soon, where we talk about renovating for profit, renovating to add value, and things like that. So we'll leave that for that video. So now you've got your home in Bondi. You've got your investment property up here in southeast Queensland, Brisbane, great location.
Yeah.
What's the plan moving forward from here? Like, I'm sure you and Britt have sort of talked about that. You know, what's been running through your mind, and you know, now that you've got like a portfolio, what's next?
Another one, I think. Again, I can't stop. At some point, I need to get better at that, actually, because there's a fine line. But yeah, we're just hell bent on sowing a few seeds that will, you know, work hard, get those seeds sown, and then hopefully watch them grow over time is our sort of rough ball game. And we think 3 is a good number.
Yep.
3 just sits well. I don't know.
Yeah, I like 3 because then you can maybe sell 1 to pay off the others.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Or sell 1 to buy a home if you need to, or like
or pay down a bit of debt.
Like the goal would be to hold all 3 long term, and you know put them in your will in the future.
Yeah.
But like having those 3 is going to give you options, far more options than just the 2. And that's a sad thing about property. It's like 1 more is always going to make it better, but you know you've just got to get comfortable with. You know, you got to draw a line at some point in time because, you know, when you set a goal to when you achieve a goal, you become a completely different person, and it's just never going to feel good enough. So it's good that you guys have already had those discussions, and it's like now after the 3rd one, it's about having a really good look at yourselves and going, well, this is what we set out to do. Like, let's not push the envelope too far. You've like by that point, you would have sacrificed so much. So it's almost worth just going like, let's smell the roses for a little bit.
Pretty much, yeah. And again, my old man, another thing he said to me was like, your plan can always change, but you need a plan. And that's kind of stuck with me as well. So I've always had a plan, and yes, it is ever evolving. So it went from 1 property to 2 and now 3.
Yep.
But the plan's still in action. So yeah, we've kind of renovated Bondi. We've done everything we possibly can. I even am chairman of the strata as well. Yeah. Because around the apartments and things like that, like when there's strata run, they can, you know, people can be a little bit lazy. That's totally not me. And I do all the gardening, I smash out the curb appeal, like I pressure wash all the driveways.
Love it.
So everyone else benefits from that. I even did project management, the upgrade of the hallway, like got smoke alarms put in. There was no smoke detection in the building. I was like, guys, like we need to bring this up to speed. So I came along and
12 dwellings, probably like 24 people living there at least.
Yeah, so like we kind of did our bit in our apartment, threw the paint around, made it look good, did the kitchen through COVID and all the rest of it. And it was annoying me having to walk through the slightly grotty hallway to get to our lovely apartment. So I was like, that's on my radar. Now I've done all that, I'm always like, what's next? And yeah, the tenant's lease was coming up, so we just hatched a plan to get across and do some renos up at Cleveland. So now that's done. Obviously, we'll talk about that in the other video. I won't elaborate, but now that's done. Basically, Bondi and Cleveland are good for a couple of years. Like
low maintenance,
everything's done. Like we did courtesy maintenance when we were up at the investment house. So, you know, bought a washer replacement set for the taps and did a courtesy service on the taps just to safeguard the tenants ringing us up going, oh, tap's leaking. So we've really like future-proofed those 2 properties because we used equity at a bit of savings to buy Cleveland. We've just been ploughing basically into more savings. Now basically we've got our goal set on number 3.
And do you feel that'll be another investment property, or do you feel that'll be an upgraded home?
So the latter. I think in line with our age.
Stage of life.
I don't know if I've matured or not. I don't reckon I have.
I hope not.
I'm doing a bit of adulting, but yeah, we're just ready for that lifestyle change, I think. We've had a couple of friends and family now move to places where you effectively get more bang for buck. I'm crying out for a garage. I want a garage so bad. My sort of tool collection's escalated since doing these renos. I want somewhere to house that and a motorbike and a few toys.
Yep. Start spending some money on yourself.
I want a driveway that I can pull onto without having to do laps and get fined for double parking for 2 seconds while you're trying to find a space. Like, I'm done with all that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm ready to just get a bit more space and tackle number 3. But hopefully it'll be one that will be a house that Britt and I can move into and own and occupy. So the plan would be to, like, Cleveland's up and running. That's going to get a new tenant shortly. Bondi was still deciding, given its location is insane.
Yep.
Whenever we've gone on holiday, we've chucked it on Airbnb.
Exactly.
Never failed to rent out. So we're contemplating.
And it won't.
Yeah, we're contemplating leaving that fully furnished.
Yep.
To either full-time tenant it or Airbnb it.
Yep.
Or, well, take our furniture, leave it empty and go full-time tenant unfurnished.
A little case study on that, like Ben has done that for one of his properties up here on the Sunshine Coast, 2-bed, 1 bath.
Yeah.
And if it were vacant, he'd be lucky to get $400 per week. He's got it fully furnished, electricity, Wi-Fi, water, all inclusive. And he's able to charge $650 per week on that. So he's getting an extra $250 per week to have it furnished and all of those amenities included to a long-term tenant as well.
Perfect, yeah.
There is a bit more higher turnover with that because it's more like a halfway house where people will come 3 to 6 months until they have the funds to buy their own home. But it'd be worthwhile just doing the research. Like now that you know how to do that research on Airbnb and realestate.com, like looking at the rental side of things and seeing what the difference is between a fully furnished and a not furnished one.
Yeah.
But it's good to have options, right? You know, now that you're in,
Definitely,
you've got those options.
And all that hard work is now given us these options where we're still understanding them to a certain extent. Like the whole thing's a journey and continues to be. And just because you bought one doesn't mean you know everything for them buying the second. Like it's a completely different thing.
And same for the third. And because it's going to be your own home, there's going to be different.
There'll be a bit of emotion involved, and there's lots of moving parts the whole time. But
that's what's exciting.
Yeah, it's mint.
Like it makes it good because you challenge yourself. You have open conversations like at home around the dinner table and just bouncing ideas. But I don't know, maybe because I'm passionate about it, I love it. New way as well.
Yeah, same. I've grown to definitely love it.
So it's just like you get the third one and then like it's just that same process. It's like, you start with where am I at right now? Where do I want to be in the future? Definitely. What do I do next? I buy Bondi. Finish that. Okay, cool. Want to renovate it, build a bit more of a deposit. Where I'm at, where do I want to be, what's next, buy. And now you're in that stage, and then after the third one, you just kind of rinse and repeat this over and over and over again as you move forward because you're constantly checking in as to where you're at on the longer term goals. And you're just doing what you can in the moment as well because it's all well and good to have a big lofty goal in the future, but you can't control that. You can only control what you can do today, which is either budgeting, saving, renovating or buying.
100%, yeah. There's lots of moving parts as always, and they constantly change as well, which you have to just simply adapt to. Like no one saw COVID coming. That changed everything. So luckily we're at the back end of that now. And
you managed to get back home this year as well, hey? To go see the fam?
Yeah, it was so good, yeah. Pretty big 4-week trip back to the UK to get reunited with friends and family. So
that would have been amazing, man.
Yeah, tugged on the old heartstrings a little bit. Obviously, still, ultimately we've still made the decision to be out here and we continue to put some roots down here. But we're kind of screwed both ways now because if we move back to the UK, we've got friends and family here and vice versa. So, can't have it every way. But
there's no right or wrong answers there. You figure it out.
But yeah.
So I guess you've done a lot over the last 15 years and, it's now starting to fruit a little bit, which is great.
Yeah.
Would you do anything differently? Like if you had your time again, what would you change, if anything?
I think sometimes, obviously Britt and I are a two-person team, as I mentioned, and financially we've got the same kind of ethics towards it and everything. I would have liked to have introduced that into my life a little bit earlier.
Sure.
I talked about those big, 85, 90, 95-hour weeks I was smashing, and some of that got spent on a bit of partying, and ultimately I wouldn't change that because it shaped who I am. And
it's like you always see people that don't do that, and then they get to their 30s and they're like still chasing it, and it's like, man, I'm happy to leave that in the past.
And it's like it's the hindsight thing again, which can be both wicked and wonderful. But every now and then my brain wanders back to, geez, if I'd have just put that into a little seed in the UK that could have been growing, like that would have been as much as 15 years ago.
Yeah,
and as we know in the world of property, look at everything that
Liverpool,
can happen.
Manchester, Nottingham, all done very well over the last 15 years.
But I didn't know then what I know now, and that will continue to be everyone's experience through life. So other than that, Nah.
Nothing.
I mean, I had
That's
fun
good.
back then anyway, and I'm still, hopefully kicking a few goals now with Britt as well. So.
Well, then I guess a better question might be, now that you've got all of this experience and knowledge and the portfolio to show, what advice would you have for others that are, either at the beginning of their journey or, maybe they're just in their home at the moment, whether that be an apartment, a townhouse or a house?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for people that were sort of in your situation back in maybe 2018, 2019?
Yeah, hopefully we're, prime examples of the fact that it can be done. Many people work on different salaries and things like that. We obviously tried to, push for our careers to get better and better and make things easier and easier as that escalates and things like that. But just stick at it. Like, I just have a never give up attitude, and I think that'll be with me forever.
Love that.
A lot of grit, a lot of determination, a lot of little and often. I talked about picking battles with your savings. Like, if that coffee makes you happy, don't cut that out.
Yeah.
Like, keep your mind in the right place and pick something else. Like I did with not going to the gym or whatever other little luxuries get cut out. But remember to give yourself those luxuries every now and then, because it's not going to happen overnight. Like, ultimately, this has all been brewing for the last 15 years, 10 big time for us. Like, that's a lot of time. So just, grit, determination, little and often over a long period of time can add up. Like, that compound growth in your savings. Oh. Once you understand, like, it starts off little, little pay rise comes in, or you might get a little bonus or something happens, and then your living quarters change. So we shared a rental place with some friends and family. So we cut the rent in half. We were living in like a shoebox of a bedroom for like 2 years, but we were paying like not much rent, and we were living in Bondi. So that kind of helped, but the sacrifice, we were living in this little box. But we did that, and it sucked after a little while, and we were getting on top of each other a bit, but we did it, and all those little things added up just meant that the savings did this and this and this and this. And then towards the end, that growth is mad, and I learned a lot from that, hence why I just went, right, let's do it again.
Let's go, yeah.
Also, once you get a bit further down the line, white paint and a pressure washer
goes a long way.
Goes a long way.
It really does,
I swear down.
You can truly polish your turd with some white paint and a high pressure hose.
Yeah, and if you can't polish it, just roll it in glitter.
I love that, man. I think that's a good place to end as well, man. So thank you so much for sharing all that information, brother. It's an awesome journey to this point in time, but only just beginning as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on. It's been a good journey at that, and it continues. So
thanks, brother.
Appreciate it.
Woo! That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
Have a spin.
Yeah. Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice, eh? Oh.